Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in this 2007 Alfa Romeo Brera. Before I continue, can we just stop for a couple of seconds just to appreciate the beauty of this thing? From every single angle, it is exquisite. Right, enough of that. What can I tell you about it? Well, the Alfa Romeo Brera has been around since 2005, and it was in production until 2010. You could have bought it as a 3-door coupe hatchback thing like this one, or as a convertible, which was simply known as the Spider. Over the years on the old Top Gear, you'll have heard numerous times over the years the famous trio proclaim that you can't be a proper petrolhead until you've owned an Alfa. And that might have been true when the world was black and white, but for me, growing up in the 90s, Alfas were just rebadged Fiats, and nobody wanted one of those. I couldn't see the appeal at all. Then when I was 15, the Brera came out and stopped me in my tracks. This is one of those cars that you buy completely with your heart rather than your head. You'd buy the Brera for its looks alone, even if you found out that the seats were made from puppy skin and it was made by underpaid refugees and that it probably wouldn't even get you home. You'd still buy one. This is the definition of a heart over head decision. Styling wise, I think we can all agree it's a stunner. It's a beautiful car, this. I've been using it now for a couple of days, and every single time I walk back to it in a car park, it is the best looking thing in the car park. Every time you catch a glimpse of your reflection at a bus stop, I just think, God, that looks good. Some of the lines are beguiling. Even something as mundane as the exterior door handles. They're a work of art. When you finally stop drooling at the exterior, you'll open the door and realise the interior is just as nice. You might assume, wrongly by the way, that this is just some sort of Fiat Grande Punto only with more leather. A sort of Fiat Bravo Vanden Plas. And it isn't. It's way better than that. It's charmingly Italian. I'm nowhere near cool enough to drive this. Most cars I get into nowadays are all very similar to one another. They're all much of a muchness. All the buttons look virtually the same, all the switches are all in the same place. But this Brera is a breath of fresh air. It's only when you spend some time with it do you really appreciate the thought that's been applied. Take, for example, the steering wheel. It's beautiful in its simplicity. I love the fact that it's symmetrical. I love the brushed aluminium. It's just a lovely thing to stare at and to hold. The stalks are nicely sculpted, and you can also turn the lights on from the stalk, which is interesting rather than just your bog standard run-of-the-mill headlamp switch. I do have what sounds like a bit of a wheel bearing noise on this, which will have to get sorted. You've got the start-stop button here, you've got 3 dials here with your fuel gauge, your temp gauge. It's all very neatly done. Everything about this car just makes you feel cultured and sophisticated. You know, you could have bought a sterile Ford Focus or a completely characterless VW Golf, but you didn't. You bought a Brera. Weirdly, nothing feels cheap either. Everything feels fairly solid, which is a genuine surprise. You've got some nice touches of accent lighting in certain areas, which all just make it feel much more upmarket and opulent. It's a nice bright car to be in too. The glass roof certainly helps, but it feels nice and airy and light. Next up, you've got the door cards, which are carefully scalloped like a mermaid's bosom. And just take a look at the seats. They look like something Michelangelo would be proud of. They're comfortable too. It's all just too nice for words. And I'm trying my best. Interior space is very good up front. It is quite restricted in the back. You get 2 cup holders which, annoyingly, are situated under this centre armrest, which isn't the most convenient location, but nevertheless, they're there. You get a nice armrest that's wrapped in leather. You get a cigar lighter and ashtray, obviously, because smoking's still cool in Italy. The rear space is woeful. I mean, it's truly laughable, but che importa? Actually, thinking about it, this whole car is very similar in shape and size to the new Scirocco. Only this one's bought by people who like to dress smartly, whereas the Scirocco is bought by people who think that sweatpants are the pinnacle of fashion. The Brera is bought by people who know that flip-flops and socks should only be worn to take the bins out, and absolutely never, under any circumstances, in public. The boot space is quite good. Because it has quite a large backside, you do get a lot of room back there. 300 litres to be precise. The actual opening could be better. It's quite high up and it can be a little bit tricky to get things in there, but you can't really complain about the overall size of it. Again, there's no ugly, ghastly handle on the boot. It's all hidden. You have to open the boot either from the remote control or using a button under the centre console. You also have 4 lovely looking exhausts because... perché no? You couldn't just have 2 exhausts because that wouldn't have been sympathetic to the design. Under the bonnet of this one, they fitted it with the engine from a tugboat. It uses a 2.4 litre 5-cylinder turbo diesel engine, which does a really good job actually. It feels quick. I mean, low down, when you rev it, it can feel a little bit sluggish, but as soon as the turbo kicks in, see, nothing, hang on, wait for it, there we go. It does pin you into your seat. It rides very well, even with these larger wheels. It goes over the bumps very nice. This model produces 210 horsepower, which means it has a 0 to 60 of around 8 seconds, and a top speed of 140 miles an hour. And yet, it's quite economical. You'll average 35 miles per gallon, 42, 43 on a motorway run, so quite cheap to run. You could have bought it with a petrol engine. There was a 2.2 litre petrol or a 3.2 litre V6, which is the one I would go for personally. Having said that, with a V6 petrol, you'd be looking at about 20 miles per gallon. And here in the UK, you're in the highest tax bracket of £585 a year. And let's face it, some people will think they've been quite reckless buying the Brera in the first place, so they probably just couldn't stomach the low MPG and the high tax. In that case, the diesel's probably the best option. In addition to great styling, something else the Italians are great at is making a good diesel motor. These are reliable engines. The diesels have a timing belt which needs to be replaced every 5 years. The petrols are all chain driven, so you don't need to worry there. And you should change the oil every 10,000 miles or 12 months. In terms of the way it drives, I mean, listen, it's a front wheel drive, front engined hatchback basically. So there's nothing remarkable about it. If you were to blindfold me, it feels like I'm in a Golf or a Leon or a Focus. It's that sort of drive, but there's nothing wrong with it. The good thing about driving it, apart from enjoying the beautiful interior, is every single time you catch your reflection in a shop window, you'll have a wry smile. And a Golf or Ford Focus, as good as they are, won't do that. So yes, I suppose you could say it's a little bit style over substance, but so what? If you're looking to buy one, then you really need to buy one from an Alfa enthusiast. I know that will mean you have to talk to them, while they bore you to tears for hours about how I got it up on the ramp and there was some slight misting from the rear sprocket valve cover. Anyway, I managed to file it down by all that sorts of stuff. But it's worth it because they are the only ones that will truly maintain these properly. In a nutshell, you want to buy one of these from somebody who likes corduroy and has a very organised shed. One negative to tell you is that new and used parts are quite expensive. I'm not talking run-of-the-mill things like oil filters and air filters because anybody can reproduce those. But I mean things like, well, for example, the rear light on this one, it's got water in it, so the seal's obviously bust. So it's now steamed up like a welder's mask on a hot day. I had a quick look on eBay, and well, if I were to replace a rear light on a Ford Focus, I'd have a look on eBay and I'd find one for about 57 pence because they made 2 million of them. Whereas the Brera, because it's rare, there are only 2 for sale on eBay and they're £200 each. Same story with the front fogs. I'm just going to have to bite the bullet next week and replace them because they need doing. This is something that I've learnt the hard way with a few Giuliettas over the years. Used parts are expensive and hard to come by. Things like wing mirrors, heater blower motors, they are quite pricey. In its 5-year run, they only produced about 21,000 Breras, which sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to the millions of Astras and Focuses and Golfs knocking about, it really is a very low number. So you can see why parts are so difficult to come by. Prices here in the UK start at around £3,000. If you're looking for a diesel, you need to make sure that timing belt's been done once or probably twice now. And you're probably better off buying the best one you can afford rather than the cheapest. I must now be a slight party pooper and discuss reliability. This is something that I've said many times before on this channel, but I feel like I have to share it again. Cars in general are rubbish. They're all unreliable, they're all terrible, they will all cost you a fortune when they break, and they will all break. So, why not just buy the car that you want? Don't think, by the way, if you just buy Japanese, you'll be safe, because you won't. They're all unreliable. In the last month alone, so the last 4 weeks, just in case you don't know what a month is, I've spent £20,000 with my local mechanic, fixing cars, prepping cars for sale. They're all terrible, trust me. So if you're going to spend £1,000 fixing something, it might as well be on something that you like and enjoy, rather than something dreary and hateful. I spent £2,800 last week mending a Renault Megane. It had a new DPF, new turbo, new clutch and dual mass flywheel, and at the end of it, after I paid that huge bill, what was I left with? A Renault Megane. Whereas if I spend a similar amount of money repairing my SL55 AMG or my Range Rover, at least at the end of it, I've got an SL55 AMG or a Range Rover, not a Megane. So the same is true of the Alfa. If you want one, get one, and just get on with it. So don't be put off by horror stories. Buy the car which puts a smile on your face, and enjoy it. Keep some money back for some repairs for a rainy day, which there will be, inevitably. And yeah, enjoy it. Life's too short. I think that pretty much sums up the Alfa Romeo Brera. Gorgeous to look at, reassuringly average to drive. The rear space is laughable, and the fuel filler door is stupid. But apart from that, a very nice car. I think you'd enjoy owning it, genuinely. So, thank you once again for watching. Grazie mille. Arrivederci. If you are interested in getting into the used car business, then boy oh boy, it's your lucky day, because I've done an online course with nearly 100 videos which teaches you everything about the motor trade, where to buy stock from, how to fund your business, branding, dealing with customers, preparing your cars, everything you could possibly wish to know. So I'll leave the link below, check it out. Cheers guys, I'll see you later.